You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
I'm going to explain this a little bit more in depth. And of course, once I get the police report, I should be able to get it off my credit report at that point. However, they entered into corruption, engaged in fraud, and entered a birth date in Experian that they did not have from the medical services account. It's fraud, criminal fraud. Now, I'll explain some things further. That once you engage in criminal fraud, you can't take it back. That's why I tell you, don't listen to the deep state. Now, I'm not telling you you'll necessarily be prosecuted because the government is given to what we see occurring around President Trump. It's been occurring around me for 25 years. When I get that off of my account, I'll witness that to God. And then at that time, God will decide whether it's forgivable. It doesn't mean that God's going to let you up from that. Now, well, what am I talking about? You're already saying that the earth is being destroyed. This increases it. It brings hells into the destruction, which means individual and group hells. You've seen hell. It's out there. ISIS brought hell to earth. I don't condone ISIS, but you all caused ISIS. I've told you that before. I've explained all of this to the deep state for decades. I used to sit in gyms as if I was on my phone because I knew they were there, and I would tell them what was going to happen and what was happening because they would not stop what they were doing. Is it about me? Yes. Is it about me? No. It's about everyone that has this done to them at varying levels of deep state and varying levels of other communities. What it's about is God's inability to counter the deep state's curses and the deep state's physical moves and the deep state's psychological warfare. And as I've told you before, the planet is a rogue and renegade planet. God came here attempting to reign in earth and bring it back into the fold. I humor your churches on and off. Your churches aren't real. I've provided enough factual data that you should realize that your churches are not real. You can't trade off charity for the other activity that you're engaged in. You can't say you're going to be a demonic witch of the mind and engage in psychological manipulation of people and say that because you're a church and then you have a lot of money and engage in charity, that you're allowed to do that. Again, I'm taking the focus off your victims, and you don't like that. I'm taking the focus off the FBI and CIA's victims, and they don't like that. Because the focus should be on them and you, church, mosque, Hindu temple, Sikh Gurdwara, Buddhist temple. What you're seeing in the millennial generation is already in the leadership of the aforementioned religions and in the CIA and FBI. Believe you me, people I worked with acted out the way we see those people act out. Nobody did anything. They don't care. They're afraid of them. CIA activity is going on all across this nation in the same manner that CIA type of activity was used to execute Rabbi Jesus Emmanuel Christ, Ben David, son of David, Ben Elohim, son of God. I'm listening to an angel speak. Oh. The same thing as before. The president's impeachment, my VA benefits get turned down, my credit report gets hit. It all gets hit at the same time. So when this happened to me tonight, out there's a ton of people having things happen to them based upon demonic activity of the deep state, empowering all the other cronies to engage in such activity. You're all going to hell. Hell is real. I attempted to heal hell away, and you all did not want to cooperate. You believed that others belonged in hell, therefore hell has to exist. Well, you condemned yourselves because the others are your victims and they're blind. You've possessed people to murders. You've possessed people to rape. You've possessed people, and that possession is both the victim and the subject that committed the crime. You possess the victim to be the victim, and you possess the subject that committed the crime to commit the crime. That's how it works. And you got famous off of it, didn't you? Overseas, same thing. ISIS was created by inaction of CIA. The people we were supposed to attempt to bring in and use in Syria were being prosecuted by the FBI. We should have tried to manipulate them into a deal instead of ending possible control over there. And this is before they went into Iraq. So again, a ton of missteps. Well, as long as you've been misstepping, I don't think you can use that term. As long as you've been misstepping, I don't think you can use that term any longer. I mean, look at Mexico. Look at our people. They can't even keep a job. That's why the importation of foreign nationals is constantly ongoing. I have a guy here, he's retired AT&T guy. He tells me about his son. His son wants to work at a marijuana dispensary because he just wants to smoke marijuana all the day. Now, I agree to legalization of marijuana, but I also agree to regulation. It's poorly regulated. That's why it didn't work. Again, I agreed to the surge because I came up with the surge idea in 2007, but not the way you did it. And that's been ongoing. You kind of have an appearance of knowing what you're supposed to do, but yet you don't do it. Maybe you just don't have the ability. President Trump's right for pulling us out of these wars because we don't have war fighters committed to the war fighters, or we don't have a leadership committed to the war fighters. Look what they're doing to Gallagher. They can't drop it. They're insane. This is what's happened to me for 25 years. I don't care. I have a future brighter than anything that could possibly shine on this planet. I really don't care if you doubt who I am. I really don't care. I've strategized so many miraculous events with God just in this simple single lifetime that there's no being on this planet times 20 lifetimes that can even get to 5% of it. And that's them being awakened to me being asleep until I was 40. And that's another thing. People are not supposed to be asleep spiritually in government, nor the church. If I was a soul winner in church and I was the guy cleaning the church and the guy cooking for the church, they're supposed to be awakened. That shows you what's wrong with your churches. But of course, if I was deep state, I would have been awakened very fast. So God is not mocked. Again, it's also independent of my life, but God has applied immense power into my life based upon who I really am in a spiritual world, or in the spiritual world, and based upon God's focus on my life. The only reason I'm here and alive is because I have work to do. That's it. I'd have been dead. The Marshal Service killed me. I would have died in Desert Storm. God showed me each moment while I was asleep, and then I remembered it when He woke me up. Because there was the repressed side of it, what it actually was, and who you all actually are. So you have all these things going on, and you haven't connected the dots. That police officers are being railroaded into prison, whether they be innocent or guilty. Because why? And I say innocent, guilty, I mean in a spiritual sense. Innocent of the crime, but innocent or guilty in a spiritual way. In other words, it being their sin reaction and not being their sin reaction in some cases. I don't think this last guy that it was his sin reaction. The one in, I think, North Carolina or something like that. He said all the right things. The guy was high on cocaine. There was evidence that he tried to taser him, I imagine. They left that out of the news article. But connect the dots. It's a deep state activity. I've told you to stop for years. Police officers being shot. Deep state activity is bringing that upon you. Look at the number of people that have come after my life. And I could die this moment and I still succeeded. How did I stay alive? Nobody's protecting me. Don't let them fool you. It's God. The only thing that's going on is some people won't do what the other people are doing, and they consider that protection. There's only one way to protect me, and they know it. And that's to come at least semi-clean on what happened. And of course, a certain level of compensation, because that's why the deep state keeps doing this. Financially, it's not what you think it's in your head, because I can read what you're saying. It's no big deal. It's not, oh, you see, you don't want to be this guy, because there is no choice but to be this guy. But that's me, because I'm not a devil. If you're church and you got a wife, that's great. But if you're a devil whether you go to church and have a wife. If you arrest 5 murderers tomorrow and you're a devil, you're still a devil. The Bible's clear on that. The Sikh scriptures are clear on that. The Hindu scriptures are clear on that. The Quran is clear on that. And to a certain degree, the Buddhist scriptures are clear on that. So again, it's no big deal that you have a great life and it's been manicured so that you appear to be an angel of light, Satan. Don't try to out-Bible me. Just don't do it, because you have no idea how stupid your churches are when it comes to the Bible. It sounds good because you spent centuries perverting the Bible for your own uses. And I don't have to go through the last 15 years of Bible instruction that I rendered to be right about it. That be the instruction on the other scriptures. There's nobody on the planet, not even the people that write the books in the yoga community, that has the overall spiritual awareness and knowledge that I have provided. I can fit it all together. They can't. Do I know everything about God? No, I didn't say that. But you would say that's what I said. Because you're a devil. I know what devils do, and I can sense and hear what you say. I'm not worried I'll survive. But this planet won't. And many of you will be smitten in hell over and over and over again. And it's not simply about one thing happening in my life, because this one thing started 25 years ago. And there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people involved. Some merely spiritual, some spiritual, physical, and psychological. Why do I not care about you and your child dying today? Ask yourself that. Of course, you'll try to put it on me. First off, everybody dies. First off, everybody dies. First strike against the planet. Second, you're all murderers. Second strike against the planet. You're murderers. You have somebody you think deserves to die. I don't. If God tells me to do something that causes death, then that's God. It's not me. And of course, I'm not speaking about physically acting out. If I move a spiritual effort that causes 50,000 people to die, then that's on God. You've had how many ages, Earth, to change? Don't act like you just got here. You're the same devil that was here 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 years ago. When the dinosaurs were here, if you go through the entire thing, there's a spiritual world around everything. Whether you believe in creation or evolution, I'm not going to get into that argument, and I told you that. But what you believe you see on earth is not the real world. There's a spiritual world, and the Bible speaks about it. Ghosts and spirits occupy space on this planet, and it's pretty thick right now. And that's what you're listening to. You are listening to those spirits, those ghosts, and those devils telling you to act out poorly. And you believe it's your own thought, or you believe it's God. But if you think God doesn't want to destroy this planet, then you are very confused. So God sends beings to earth to live a certain life, to alleviate the problems that people are praying about. And you take it upon yourselves, the deep state, to keep those people asleep until you can kill them. There was a news article years ago about a certain insect that has this excretion of some sorts that disorients the other insects. And they rip the wings off the winged insects. And they just kind of wander around till the other insect decides to eat them. This is really what your planet is. There are spirits on this planet in the body. Their wings have been ripped off. And you're spiritually eating them alive all day long, all life long. I look at people with disability. I look at people with stress. I look at people with sad faces. I look at who you all are and what life you're living and what you're projecting to cause those other things. And I witness it to God. Remember, God has told me I could judge things. And I told God I'm not to judge things. But I can witness things. And God said, that's why you're my judge. Because you don't judge. Which means I can witness what I see happening, but I don't define the punishment. And of course, I have parameters. Anything I say that's wrong is wrong. I don't force untruth to be truth, and we see that in the deep state all day long. We see that in the private sector community. But I'm telling you, what you're seeing in the millennial generation that makes you concerned was put into the millennial generation by intelligence agencies and law enforcement officers trained by those intelligence agencies to manipulate a community along with the millionaires and the billionaires such as Soros, the Koch brothers, so on and so forth. Remember, you can engage in charity all day. The King James Version is very important because they call both of the ideas charity. If you change it to love, you're not going to get the point. Because you need to realize it says, I can burn my body, give all my money to the poor, but if I don't have charity, it's not love, it's charity. Because you're supposed to see that, well, wait, isn't that charity? And isn't this charity? So how can you not be charitable if you're charitable? Because you'll hear the church, you'll hear Christians, you'll hear them eulogize the Koch brother as if they had engaged in charity and that's all they had to do. But if the mind and the will causes a need for charity, then all bets are off. And you're not me. I want you all to realize that. I'm not Jesus, but I am who I am. And I ain't Popeye the Sailor Man. And I'm not going to deny myself based upon your confusion on how things work and confusion on who I really am. I could care less what the deep state and their FBI psychologists tell you about it. I could really care how Satan crafted something to deny God's truth. And that's part of what the church is today, a denier of the truth. But yet the church was the synagogue, and the synagogue was a denier of the truth, even unto the death of Rabbi Jesus Emmanuel Christ ben David ben Elohim. I don't know why people hop on the bandwagon, because they're not real Christians. I don't even know why. I ask why. They get Christians on the bandwagon because somebody said something about the Sadducees and they happen to be Islamic. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm Jewish and I could find issue with Jewish leadership. Jewish leadership always finds issue with Jewish leadership. The Hasidic movement and the non-Hasidic movement were at each other's throats for years. They still are, in some cases. So again, we have this, what people want to call politics, but what it's doing is ruining the church, is ruining the truth, ruining the church. The church has been ruined. Don't try to put words in my mouth. Death. We'll just move a little death and hell, because that's the only thing that's going to change any of you. It's entrenched in your system. We've tried everything. If death and hell is the only thing that you realize, then death and hell is all you're going to get. A little bit of martial arts there. So, the reality being that you haven't had enough, Earth, because you're the most ignorant that has ever existed. You are the most ignorant that has ever existed, because you're going to blame it on them and they're going to blame it on you, but it's all of you. See, that's how I do this with the truth. It's a certain segment of every society. And that segment's going to go straight to hell when they leave the body. Can Jesus save them? Of course. Will Jesus save them? Of course not. At least in this lifetime. Because I never preclude Jesus from going to hell and trying to give you all a hand up. I'm not really part of Jesus' world. I'm part of the Jewish angelic world. But Jesus is a friend that's closer than a brother. What happens is, and I'm receiving the information real time, you all have proven that you have a larger horse in the race of death and hell. The onus is falling on you for additional tragic circumstances, and I mean the present earth, throughout history. Which means your minds and your spirits are what God could not heal away so that Jesus could live, so that others could live. Now you say, well, wait a minute. Didn't Jesus come to earth to die? Yes, but why? Because of you. Because of all of you that are here today, doing what you're doing with your wills, your curses. Don't tell me that you're in a church and you don't do it. I know you do it. I've been there. I know you do it. I can feel you. I can see you. I can hear you. I know you better than you know yourself. I know you better than you know yourself. I was built to do this, but yet it didn't have to go this way. Semel was built to do what Semel does, but it didn't have to go this way. You all are part of that and are that. There goes the sirens of hell speeding up the highway again. So we'll see how this goes. But after 25 years of it, and the criminal activity increasing and increasing and increasing. And it's not the top 10% of wealth. It's not the bottom 10% of poor people. But you'll find the top 10% that are corrupt blame the bottom 10%, and the bottom 10% that are corrupt blame the top 10% as if it's that paintbrush. But the church does the same thing. The Hindu temple does the same thing. Mosque does the same thing. You see, it's a scam. They cause the need for charity and then become the only thing that's allowed to engage in charity, and then come in as the heroes, applying charity to a few while the rest suffer. I'm in deep meditation and conversation with God all day. All day. And then, of course, at times, angels and Jesus. And of course, when I speak to God, God reminds me that there are angels and Jesus and others listening as an instruction. Can I instruct Jesus? Of course. Did I instruct Jesus? Of course. Does Jesus instruct me? Of course. Am I hung up on it? No. Is Jesus hung up on it? No. Are you? Yes. Because you listen to Satan day in and day out. And you talk to Satan. And you call it Jesus. And you call it God. That's who you are. There's nothing left. Tribal warfare. And you love it. But yet, there's a group of people that God speaks about through Isaiah and Ezekiel that are still here and still suffering. And no, you don't engage in charity for them. You cause enough misery that you could work the charity over here while leaving the other ones out. So it's a scam, even from a spiritual sense. You cause misery and a need for charity in people that you can help or will help, just so you can make it look like you're charitable. But yet you cause the need in the others and you don't help them. Same thing we see in the deep state law enforcement, causing crime and not investigating crime while ensuring there's sufficient crime to investigate and solve to make you the angel of light. Like I said, are there good police officers? Yes. Is it every police officer? No. Are there deep state police officers? Yes. Are they devils? Yes. Are they criminals? Yes. I don't have to worship a blue line to be a defender of the thin blue line. But I have to abstain from being a deep state criminal and psychopath, devil, to defend the thin blue line. Like I told you, people that executed police officers were the first people to the funerals and the buffet at the funeral. Sat around acting like they don't kill cops. So when you see a Fed at a funeral, wonder how he got a ticket to the funeral when he's supposed to be working. Most likely he's deep state or she's deep state. Well, praise God in all that you do, no violence. Pretty rough stuff, but God will take care of the violence. Believe you me. Praise God.
You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run
but you can hide.